Hey, good morning, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. We'd like to recognize that collectively we are on the unceded territories of all the First Nations within our regional boundaries. Could I have an approval of the agenda?
Sure.
Oh,
Those two changes.
do we need to do that now?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Incorporating into would be adding the 11:30 time for item 7.5
Okay.
and the late business item.
11.1.
This is the Working Fire Society
Yeah.
request for funding. So with those changes, the approval of the agenda.
Okay, so seconded by Sal, okay. Move seconded, call the question all in favor, opposed, motion carried, thank you. Electoral Area Directors Committee closed meeting, we do not have one. So we won't rise and report. Consent agenda. Motion approved. Seconded by. Move seconded, call the question all in favor, opposed, motion carried. And business arising from the minutes, I don't believe there is any. Staff reports and other business. CAO verbal update.
One item for me, Chair. In April, the committee voted to allocate $2,500 of Area C Select funds to support the Tourism Pemberton Slow Food Cycle event. We captured the incorrect amount in the minutes. We captured $2,000, and so we need to correct that to get them the right amount. So
Yeah,
we're
to
looking
get
for
the extra 500.
we're looking for a resolution today to allocate an additional or allocate $500 to that.
Okay, well, I'll make that right. That resolution, seconded by Sal. So move seconded, call the question all in favor, opposed, motion carried. That's good.
Yep.
Information report, 2022 first quarter financials. And we have Suzanne.
Just open the. And then to Suzanne and Annie, Mr. Papillon, and friends.
Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning.
We'll try again with Mr. Papillon.
Yeah, Annie came up and then,
She was in and then
yeah, there we go.
Can I turn off one of these over?
Yeah.
seemed to be having a technical problem. She's popped out again.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a bit better. I don't know, Suzanne, if you want to start. I've let her in twice, but for some reason, she's dropped off both times. She's not back up in the waiting room yet.
And this is the select funds report? Sorry, I don't know what we're on right now.
7.2, the information report, 2022 first quarter financials.
Okay, yep, that's for me. So the first quarter financials, there's not a lot happening. There's mostly just some revenues, but we don't really typically receive everything in time. So what I can say about the first quarter financials are the building inspection revenues are ahead of schedule as per the budget. So we budget on average the last 2 years for the building inspection revenues, and they're already over 50% received for this year. So that's good news for that service. And that's really the only point I wanted to make about the Q1s. Everything else is pretty preliminary, and Q2s will show more of a story of what might happen this year. But I'll answer any questions that the committee might have.
Yeah, Vivian, go ahead.
I was looking at on page 33 of our agenda. When I'm looking at the park service, we'll see the new layout with the different areas at a future budget, right? Yeah. And I'll ask those questions when we get there. I was wondering also on page 33, the time allocation towards the Seton Park. And I was wondering what activity happened in the Seton Park.
Well, that would be a question for utilities and environmental services, unfortunately.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. I would be
But I can
thrilled.
relay that. I can relay that
Yeah,
question.
and Ms. Belsham, we'll get you an answer to that.
Thank you. And on page 28. I'll just keep
What
going.
page is it of?
I was looking at 33, now I'm looking at 28.
I'm on the other service, I've got 15 pages, so.
Yeah,
Oh, which page in the report? Sorry. Okay, so backing up to page 33. That is page 14 of 15.
Okay.
Now I'm going backwards just to keep you on your toes. Try my. I just didn't understand that entry on page 28 of the agenda, page 9 of the report, BC Hydro Pilt allocation accrued. What is,
Yep.
what happens there?
So we haven't actually received the funding yet. So I accrue it so you can actually still see that revenue in the statement, but we actually don't have the funds in our bank at all. We don't receive the BC Hydro payments until July. So that's why.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
any other questions? Sal, no? Tony, you okay?
Yeah, not very much red ink in there. Everything seems pretty close to what we were predicting, so I'm fine.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Could I have a motion to receive? Second by Sal. So move second and call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're off to 7.3, though that's the one we're going to,
No, 7.5 is the one that's timed at
oh yeah,
11:30.
hang on, let me just mark that one. It's for,
Was it 11?
11:30.
11:30. In 7.3, request for decision, electoral area C, development variance permit number 169. And we have Kim and Anna. Are you going to speak to this, Kim? Can you hear me?
I can speak.
Chair,
to
I believe
that.
Ms. Cotter.
Good morning, directors. Requesting a buildings as in from 6 meters to 7 meters, as well as a 3. Hello, are you able to hear me properly?
Yeah, we can hear you now. How about you, Kim? Are you okay now?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, you were frozen at first, so okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so I can keep going then. So it's a 1 meter height increase to the maximum height for accessory buildings, so from 6 meters to 7 meters, and a 3 meter setback decrease to the minimum interior side setback of 7.5 meters, which means a reduction from 7.5 meters to 4.5 meters. The rationale provided for the requested accessory building height variance is that the applicant wishes that the roof line of the proposed garage visually aligns with the roof line of the dwelling, because there have been past concerns that overheight accessory buildings are converted into residential units. It is proposed that should the side variance be granted, the owner sign a covenant agreeing that the proposed garage is to be used for accommodations. The rationale provided for the setback reduction request is that the applicant wishes to build a garage in the same spot as an existing garage that is to be demolished, thereby disturbing less land, as well as that the subject property is narrow. The subject property is approximately 33 meters wide, which leaves an 18-meter wide strip of developable space after 7.5 meters is subtracted from each side, which may be considered relatively narrow. And so the neighbors within a 50-meter radius have been notified, but we have yet to receive a response. And that concludes the summary. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Is there any questions for anyone?
I just wondered what studio space meant. I'm just curious. Is he an artist or?
Did you hear that question?
Yes, so the applicant didn't specify what will be happening in the studio space. It will be used as studio and workshop space by the owner.
Yeah, I see on the page 15 of 16 that they've actually got the raised section as a sewing room with a balcony and everything else, and then the studio is on the right-hand side. I'm just curious if the or being gonna have water and sewer or that whole element.
Did you hear that question, Hannah or Kim?
Sorry, it was frozen for me. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, on the side view of the building, it shows a sewing room above the garage and then
Yeah.
a studio off to the right down lower.
Yeah.
With the covenant, how are we gonna make sure that either one of those isn't gonna be used for accommodations? And also, are they applying for a septic? What are they gonna do for water and septic for this building? Is there a bathroom in there anywhere?
So I'm not entirely sure how our covenants ensure that spaces are used for the purposes that they're meant to be used. I believe that gives us more legal power to enforce those things if they do take place. Bathrooms and washing stations are allowed in garages and studio spaces. However, kitchens are not permitted, and that is what would make it a residential space.
Okay, thank you. I know we approved one in our area at Gun Lake, and there was quite a bit of complaints by one of the neighbors. And I'm sure that, they'll be making sure that double height garage is not going to be occupied. So, yeah, it's just something to think about when we do these things. Thank you.
Okay, everybody's okay?
I would just comment that we desperately need housing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me too much if at some point in the future there wasn't a proposal to make this into accommodation, and I can't see that how I would be opposed to that.
Yeah. Okay, moved and seconded?
Option one, that's. one.
Yes. So option one is your preferred option? So we'll move and second that. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Seven point four. Request for decision notice on title construction contrary to building bylaw regulations. Tennyson Kelly, Area A. Are you going to speak to that, Kim?
Yes, Chair. Contrary to the recommendation, we simply want to put a notice on title. The property owner has begun construction of a house without a permit. So we simply want to put a notice on the title to flag it for future potential property owners.
Okay, Sal?
I'm just curious, it looks like he did get a permit, correct?
It was not completed.
Yeah, so I got a couple of questions on that. Did he get the authority for a septic system? And was it finalized and approved?
The septic system would be finalized in association with the permit. I'm not aware of the details of whether a septic system was actually applied for.
Okay. Through this multi-year process, what was actually approved through that building permit? Like, foundations and footings and so on and so forth. Was there anything ever approved?
Sorry. So they applied for a BP. They were issued a permit in 2014. An extension was granted for 2 years beginning May 2016, as work had not been completed prior to the expiry of the original permit. A second permit extension was granted in 2018. Notice was sent to the owner in 2019 and in 2020 to notify that there would be no further extensions, and that a notice on title would be initiated. So those are the facts that have come to me on this particular file.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know, was there a plumbing permit finished? Was there, and so on and so forth. Like, yeah.
Well, essentially, if they might pass certain inspections. However, unless they pass all their inspections, the permit is not considered issued.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be good for me in the future if we had some of those details. Because, what they've actually passed and where they're at in the process.
Well, in this case, the issue is that the property owner has expired in terms of their work, and they would be subject to the code of today. So we'd have to have a renewed application, and we've now got a new building code in place. So any previous inspections would basically be null and void because they'd have to be brought to the code of today.
Okay, I'll move that. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure I understand exactly what's happening here. So this person applied for a building permit way back in 2014 and started doing some work. There's been some building going on. We don't know how much, but something has happened over a period of years. But their permit to do this has expired. So what we're saying now is what exists there has nothing to do with any any permits that were issued in the past, or it has to do with that, but they're not valid anymore. And so for you to go any further with this construction, you need a new permit. And the new permit will be, presumably we would be able to issue one, but it would be with new rules. So if they have built something that doesn't meet code, today's code, they have to go back and redo it. Have I got that right?
Yeah, through the chair, they applied under a different code. Whatever work has been done is going to have to meet the BC 2020 building code.
Okay.
They may or may not have to redo things, but they will have to be inspected again based on today's code. And the building official will have to be satisfied that the work that has been completed will meet the 2020 code.
Just a comment then, that seems reasonable to me, given the amount of time they've had. It's not as though we're springing something upon them. They've been, what was that, 8 years?
8 years.
8 years, so, okay, thank you, so.
Okay, you wanted to move option 1, Sal?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Tony. Okay, move second, call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you. And now, for 10:50, should we just bypass this one and carry on? Right, okay. 7.6. Is direction request agritourism accommodation regulations, temporary use permit number 70, Sergeant Hammer, or is it Harner? Hammer, Electoral Area D. Do you want to speak to this, Kim?
Yes, Chair. So essentially, staff received this application for an agritourism accommodation use, which is enabled by the ALC, and the SLRD has discretionary powers whether to allow this use. We have opted to allow the use on an application basis. This application sort of raised a number of questions for us, particularly with respect to its location in the Upper Squamish Valley, but I think generally, we need to be looking at preparing some policies and or regulations associated with how we review these kinds of applications. So some questions that come to mind based on this application are, is agritourism accommodation appropriate in the Upper Squamish Valley in particular for this one? If so, how many agritourism accommodation units should we be allowing? The ALC allows up to 10 units if supported by local governments, but I think we might want to be putting some parameters around this based on lot size. Agritourism accommodation is only allowed in association with agritourism activities on a parcel. So should we be requiring that there be a proven track record of agritourism activities before we allow the accommodation to go with them? In this particular case, the applicant does not have a proven track record of agritourism activities. What is the minimum parcel size that we should be looking at for agritourism accommodation? Should we be considering these where there have been previous noise complaints? Safety is a factor. Currently, the only form of temporary or wheeled accommodation that can be considered safe is a recreational vehicle with the CSA Z240 RV certification. A tiny home, such as the one being proposed under this application, a tiny home on wheels, these are often handmade by people who may or may not even have any skills in making such structures. These can pose a really big fire risk. Another issue is the issue of amenities. and what level of amenities should be provided in support of agritourism accommodation. The ALC has some pretty, they have some guidelines and some rules around what agritourism accommodation can be. And we have discretion, as I said, as to what that can look like. The ALC allows these to be, requires these to be seasonal in nature. So what is the maximum period of time that the SLRD should be allowing these for? How can we prevent these from being used more than seasonally? Because one thing we are seeing in the Upper Squamish Valley is a bunch of trailers and tiny homes on wheels, et cetera, going in that are becoming permanent housing for people. And the other question, of course, is should we be allowing this kind of use as of right, or should these be initially authorized by a temporary use permit or a rezoning? So these are all a number of higher level questions that I think we need to answer before we consider the application for TUP 60, which essentially is proposing a tiny home on wheels on a farm property that does not have, no, sorry, it is classified as a farm, sorry, but it is only 3 hectares in size. And it has no history of tourism, agritourism uses. We also have concerns that a tiny home would not be permittable. So we have some pretty big safety concerns about the use of an unpermitted recreational type of vehicle in the middle of farmland where there is not great fire service. So what we are looking for from the board ultimately, and support from the EAD, is that staff be directed to prepare policy and or regulations with respect to agritourism accommodation in the Upper Squamish Valley, or agritourism accommodation in general for the SLRD. And with respect to this application, we would want to have input from residents of the Upper Squamish Valley, the Ashley Foundation, and the Squamish Climate Action Network prior to giving this particular TUP application number 70 further consideration. That concludes my talk. Thanks.
Tony, you look like you have to say something.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Well, Kim discussed this with me. I fully support this direction that she is suggesting. We had a TUP application at the last board meeting, which I spoke against and voted against. I don't think it's just agritourism that we need to worry about in the Upper Squamish Valley. I think there are some concerns up there that warrant a lot of study and coordination between District of Squamish and ourselves. The whole business of agriculture, if we're serious about climate change and climate action, if we're serious about food security and increasing the amount of food that can be grown locally, then we have to get serious about the Upper Squamish Valley. There is some agriculture happening up there right now. We just had an example of a person that was in Squamish, based out of a home, like a single family home, developing a farm, using all the land they had available there, plus finding places around town where they could grow some crops. They've just recently moved out to the Upper Squamish Valley. They farm around the home that they have there. They farm at the monastery, using some available land there that they've got an agreement with the sisters to do that. They're not applying for agritourism or any other kind of business. They're too busy farming. I mean, that's their passion. And they're putting everything into that. They've got a permanent stall at the Squamish Farmers Market now. That's the kind of thing I want to see happening out in the Upper Squamish Valley. And what it's going, what I do see and what I'm hearing from residents up there is there are a number of people that are buying properties and then using sort of the farming as an excuse, running a business of some kind. And I think we have to get a grip of that. And that should involve the groups that Kim mentioned. If somebody wants to run agritourism, then there should be some decent farming happening first. It should be a developed farm that's actually producing and where there is something to see other than 3 hectares and we've got a little mini home here and you come and you check in, here's your key, thank you very much. Those 2 animals over there are cows, that's a chicken and that's a horse, there's your tour. Now maybe I'm being a little cynical there, but there are too many examples in the Upper Squamish of people that are doing things, trying to find ways to get around rules and regulations, to run a business, to make some money. I mean, what is this? Is this Airbnb? It sounds like it, just under a different name. But then having said all that, I also recognize that we desperately need housing. So, when we've had discussions about housing in electoral areas in the last year or so, we have people waving the RGS around and saying, no, 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 no. Well, maybe it's time to look at the RGS. Maybe it's time to say, is there some sort of appropriate housing that can be provided in electoral areas? There's a group in Squamish that are really sort of pushing the idea of tiny homes. So I wouldn't want to reject them out of hand, but instead of it just happening with us having no control, we need to try to get ahead of it. And I think it requires some study, it requires some time, it requires cooperation between different jurisdictions. So this to me is just a little bit of a major problem. We have another property up there that's running weddings on a regular basis. After our last meeting, and after the account that was put in the Squamish Chief, where I think I was seen as a bit of a party pooper, poor person that had already booked a band, had to cancel. And my response to that was that person should have got his permits in place before he booked the band. So I don't accept any blame for that cancellation. But I got some letters from people in the Upper Squamish saying, thank you very much for supporting us, because we don't want that happening in our valley. We have another property where they're running weddings on a regular basis. And is that compliant with our rules and regulations? They don't seem to think so. They're suggesting that our bylaw officer should get more involved. And that's something I've only just heard about that, so I've got to look into that. So where's that all led me? I certainly support what staff are recommending here. But as I say, I'd like to see it extended. I think it's probably, I probably shouldn't try to craft something right now for today's meeting, but I think if this is approved, then I would want to work with staff and come up with a broader kind of study that I think is necessary.
For that area.
Thank you very much. I'll stop at that point.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
I would be thrilled to see this application in Area B. It's going to give exposure to the farm. This is a farm, at least if we believe what's presented in the report, and they are doing agritourism, if we believe what's in the report. That's all I have to go on. Farms need exposure. They're providing some education around farming, and farmers need cash. So I think that, to me, this looked like a reasonable application. Of course, I defer to the different situation in the Squamish Valley, but do we really need to get into regulating this? I mean, the farmer is the one that's going to take on the liability for the accommodation. They're the ones that are taking the cash, right? Do we have to get into telling them how to do that business? It's permitted, it's allowed under all of the various bureaucracies that are overseeing this. So I thought it was a reasonable application. I don't know as much about the Squamish Valley as you do, but I sure don't want to see all of these regulations moved on up to B, that's for sure, if we develop them. I'd be giving them a really critical and pretty negative look. So there's my comment.
Well, a question for Kim. Putting in regulations, and that rubs me the wrong way too. I think we're over-regulated as it is. But having said that, can we do that on a site-specific basis? Say Squamish Valley, whatever regulations you come up with would apply to there, but not necessarily to everywhere else? Can we do that?
Yes, Chair. We can come up with like a policy or regulations that are specific to each area. But I do think it is something that the EAD and the board should turn their minds to, because these things are, allowed by the ALC, but I think they require some thought, and otherwise it can become very piecemeal and become very disturbing to certain neighbors. For instance, the ALC will allow up to 10 agritourism accommodation units, but those are supposed to be with ongoing agritourism activities. And there's a huge waste issue that goes with these units. There are a whole number of issues to do with water and waste and potentially noise that can really affect other farmers who are getting up at 5 a.m. to go and earn a hard living working their farms. These uses can be very disruptive, and also they can have huge health and safety implications if they are not in certified vehicles.
Well, I could see that you would want to have a CSA approved, or whatever the regulating body is, accommodation. So if these are tiny homes, they need to be professionally built. They have a CSA sticker on it to make sure that propane is good, all that stuff, electrical. Yeah, I think the problem I have with all this is that the ALC says one thing, and then we come along and in our wisdom say, well, we don't agree with what the ALC says, which is the province, and we're gonna make it different. And then what happens is, we as directors, I know I get calls with people who read the ALC directives, and then they read our directives and they go, how come you guys aren't in line with the ALC? So the ALC is the provincial body that regulates farmland, and they say one thing and you say another thing. And all that does is it just confuses the whole issue. So either we adopt, just follow lockstep with the ALC and let them be the jurisdiction in charge, because they do make the rules for farmland. I don't know. I think that's a discussion. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. I guess what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at the Upper Squamish Valley as something quite separate from just about anything else in the regional district. If you think of where Squamish is, and Squamish is probably one of the fastest growing communities in the province right now, and it's kind of filling up, and they've got a problem with people living in vans, with people squatting here, there, and everywhere. So where are those people going to go? If Squamish sort of clamps down on it and builds up more, and some of their vacant lots are disappearing, where are those people going to go? They're not going up north towards Pinecrest and Whistler and Black Tusk, up in that area. Last year, we had a group that came down and squatted on land, South Britannia. And the landowners took action and the RCMP, et cetera, and they're gone. They were cleaned out. They're not coming down into Britannia Beach Ferry Creek. Where are they going? They're going through the reserve and up into the upper Squamish Valley. And there are things happening up there as a result of the growth in Squamish, as a result of the increase in population, the increase in prices and so on. There are things that are happening in that valley. And what I'm saying is we need to get a grip of it and sort of ask ourselves, what is appropriate? What do we want up there? What do the residents want? What do we think is reasonable? The Agricultural Land Reserve was put in place 50 years ago. And at that time, the population of the province was probably half what it is now, maybe even less than that. But the people in power at that time sort of looked to the future and said, we might need this, or we will need this farmland at some point. We're not using it right now, but it's put into reserve. And we need to be really jealous about that and really careful with it. And we should be encouraging farming in the upper Squamish and discouraging things which detract from farming. And as I say, you know, if I look somewhere else in the plan, I look at Area B. I think it's Area B. It could be Lillooet. There's a winery there. It's well established. It's got a reputation throughout the province. It's got buildings there, you know, and they do tourism. Well, that sort of makes sense. The tourism is a sort of cherry on the cake for them, if you like. I'm sure they make some money out of it. I hope they do. And you know, that's very successful. You look at a farm up in Area C that has long table events and things. Now, they're a major producing farm, and that's a bit of their business. It's not their main business. And what we're seeing in the upper Squamish is some, you know, a tourist company from Squamish running a rafting business on farmland, and well, we're going to do a bit of farming as well. It's the wrong way around. We should say no. Well, if you've got a farm established and you've got a couple of acres on the side that where you can develop a business, that's fine. So I understand what you're saying about Area C and what Vivian is saying about Area B. I come back again to the upper Squamish, and I think we as an EAD should recommend to the board that we develop some kind of a long-term plan that's specific to that valley. It's going to protect what's there right now and encourage the growth of farming. So,
Kim?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to, in response to the some comments about the ALC. So I think what's important to remember is the ALC sets basic regulations that can be applied across the board, and they expect that local governments will set their own regulations based on their needs. It's important to remember that farmland across the province of British Columbia is very, very different. It can range from 1/4 of an acre, a very essentially urban type of setting, possibly even serviced, to 300-acre parcels that are unserviced, that have no neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. So they set some of these regulations, very large in order to sort of, it's sort of a one size fits all or one size fits most, but as we know, that's not always a great solution. And particularly in places where there's a high cost of land, extreme urban pressures, such as we see in Area D and Area C in particular. There's a speculative nature to real estate. There's housing shortages, et cetera. If we lay down the ALC's sort of standards, it can actually lead to really negative consequences in terms of affordability, price of land, speculation, lack of farming. We've actually seen that from the ministry that as more and more non-farm type uses start to show up on agricultural land, particularly in these areas where there's pressures, farming noticeably diminishes and the land gets used for estate homes, etc. And so I think, that's why they've given local governments some discretionary power to make decisions within the types of uses that they allow us to have our own powers on. And the SLRD in many cases has decided over the years that we won't allow certain uses and that we will look at those on a case-by-case basis. And that is really in order to prevent speculation, provide for farmers and protect the farm base, which is, of course, we know limited, and food, for food security reasons, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about why the ALC sets sort of a wider range of allowable uses than we might actually want to see. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess the concern I have, and this is, everywhere in the province, but the price of land is getting to the point where for a person to come into farming, that's just coming in to buy a farm to go into that business, they're going to have to be very wealthy to start with, because the land is just being priced right out of reach for the average person. And I don't know how you correct that. I don't know if that's possible or not, but we just have to hope that the farmers that are on the land, say in Area C, that they stay and their families stay, because they obviously own the land at this point. But to actually go and buy land, there's land for sale in this valley that's, somewhere's around $40,000 an acre for farmland. It's impossible to go and to start new, buy all your equipment, and with the price of fuel and fertilizer and all that stuff, it's almost impossible. So I don't know how we as a local government can help that situation. I think it's above our level, but it needs to be done. Tony?
Yeah, we had an application last year for that business I just mentioned, the rafting business, and they own a big piece of agricultural land. They want to run this rafting business, and we let that go through. Maybe what we should have said was, if you want to run a rafting business using 5 acres of land here, and you've got this 45 acres, we'll approve that, provided that you find people to farm that land. If I know there are people there are young people that want to be farmers, they want to farm. And yes, they can't afford the land. But maybe if someone wants to run a business on farmland, we put some sort of thing in place which say to them, you can, but. We didn't do that. We sort of, it would be nice if that was being farmed, but there's no incentive for them to really do it. So there's that. And then another comment again about the Upper Squamish Valley. If you've ever heard a concert up there, it's like a bowl. It's intrusive. The comment was made with that TUP application that came in last month that once they've got farm status, they can run 10 of those parties a year without any other further approval. There's already a place down the road that has farm status that had a noise complaint just a month or so ago. They could run 10 as well. Now, if those two entrepreneurs got together and said, well, let's choose our dates, we could have 20 Saturday nights in a row with a rave in the Upper Squamish Valley. Would people come out from Vancouver? Of course they will. And it's not just a Saturday night. We're saying, well, come on Saturday morning and you don't have to leave till Sunday afternoon. Just think what that would do to the quality of life in that valley, to the livability in that valley. Do we want that? I don't think we do. So we may not be able to do much, but we have to do something. We have, and I think it starts with a plan for the valley that is maybe it requires an amendment to our RGS. I'm not quite sure what the process would be, but it's got to the point now. We're at a tipping point. If it gets much further, then we might as well let the whole thing off. It'll just be a zoo up there.
So you want to then move option 1 on this preferred option?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question,
Okay, go ahead.
and this is to Director Ringel. You know, last year, we talked about doing a road survey and getting some details on who's coming into the valley, so on and so forth. Where are you at with that right now? Because I think that would be a key to this.
That's interesting information to have. But I think we need that to be able to move forward with some of these other considerations.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know why the people are coming into the valley.
Why are they coming in there?
Yeah.
Because because it's close to Vancouver. You know, it's close to the Lower Mainland. It's easy to get to. And once you're out there, there's no regulation. There's not going to be any enforcement. You know, a noise bylaw, 11 o'clock, who's going out to enforce that? No one. And it's the Wild West. And it's not good for the people that live there now, and I don't think it bodes well for the future.
Yeah, there's gonna be more people coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Just looking at the layers of regulation here, it's like, it's clear in the ALC, you can't prohibit agritourism. I mean, that's even in our report. The agritourism from the ALC, agritourism may not be prohibited if blah, blah, blah. This guy meets all of those ifs, or this person, this family. The Squamish Agricultural Plan is silent on this. There is no AAC to refer this to, right? There's no other governing body.
I'm not sure where they're at with that, Kim. Yeah, I think Kim should.
Yeah, through the chair. Actually, this person does not have a track record of agritourism that we're aware of. Agritourism is allowed and cannot be prohibited. Agritourism accommodation is something that the local government has discretion over.
Okay. So while we're developing all of these regulations, we'll just sort of put these guys on hold. Is that the consequence of that decision?
Yeah. I'm not even sure what agritourism means.
Don't do it in B, that's all I have to say, and I'll be quiet.
Okay, everybody's had their say. You want to make that motion for option 1?
Yes, moved.
Okay.
So,
Seconder, Michelle? Moved and seconded, call the question, all in favor, opposed,
I'll be opposed, thank
Okay.
you.
motion carried with Director Birch Jones opposed.
Thank you.
Got that? Okay. Yeah, so now we'll,
So we have an 11.
Option 1 only refers to the Upper Squamish Valley.
okay, now we're gonna do 7.4, we got 5 minutes, I guess, till 7.5.
Yes, yeah.
Shall we, the next one might take more than 5 minutes.
Well, let's have a break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Move
We'll
around.
break. Very, very good Very good decision there, Director Rainbow. And the gentleman that's coming in by,
I believe so. I don't see him in the waiting room.
He knows that 11:30 is when it will be heard, so we can proceed.
so we can go ahead.
To 7.5.
Okay, 7.5. Request for decision, notice on title, construction contrary to building bylaw regulations. Glacier Creek Contracting Limited, Area C. Who's going to speak to this?
Sure.
So welcome.
Thank you very much. So my name is Julie Pendergast. I'm one of the building clerks at the SLRD.
My name is Jay McEwen. I'm the building official with the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District.
Very good. Glad to finally meet you. Very good. So this situation has also been going on for years. So give us an update on where we're at.
So permit was initially taken out in 2011 and then had several extensions with the final permit expiring in 2019. Originally in my report, I had mentioned that the construction appeared to have been abandoned, and the owner has gotten back to us to let us know, no, it has not been abandoned and they are ready to continue work. But at this point, there is no active building permit. Much like the previous one, this would now have to be brought up to the code of today as opposed to the code in 2011.
So I guess my question to that, so the structure that's there now, if they get a new permit to carry on, everything has to meet today's building codes?
That's correct.
And I mean, is that realistic? How do they, if you go in and you find things that met the code of the day, but now you're saying you have to meet the code of today, can that get to a point where it's not even feasible to carry on?
In this specific instance, no. The revisions in errata from the 2012 and previous versions of the building code to the 2018 code are not wild changes, so to speak. Buildings of a different age getting further and further away from today's current date, today's current code cycle, it may be prohibitive to try to bring these buildings into compliance. In this specific case, it's definitely not impossible. There may be some small changes required for life safety systems to bring it into compliance, but it's definitely not an impossibility at all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Over 10 years now.
With the revisions to the current building bylaw that we have in place and that we enforce, we can no longer offer any more extensions or renewals to this permit as well. So it's past those dates.
So then how does this person go forward?
To apply for a new building permit under our new building bylaw.
Yeah, but that can happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just cannot continue to extend this file any further than what.
Yeah, so you're gonna start a new building permit going forward?
Yeah.
Okay, Vivian.
Is that our rule that we limit the number of extensions that we have on a building permit? Is that an SLRD rule?
Yes, and in the SRD's new building bylaw in 1611-2020, applicants are entitled to one extension or the original permit period is 3 years, and they're entitled to an extension of 2 years if they apply to it. And then that's all the time period that we afford to people for building projects.
So that's a 5-year period then?
5 years, yeah.
Did the gentleman show up? Or?
No, I don't see him. Don't see him in there.
Who are we expecting? The builder?
Yeah, the owner, I guess.
The builder is the owner.
Yeah. Well, let's be kind and give that individual 4 more minutes. We'll round it out to 10 minutes. And then we'll, excuse me. Yeah, go ahead. And yeah, that's interesting. So previously then, what was it? How many you could, did it go in 2-year increments previously?
Under the previous versions of the building bylaw, there was discretionary power awarded to the building official. So realistically, building permits could
Carry on forever.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now,
To get it done.
or not,
Yeah.
now the planning and building department is in a position with human resources and staffing that we can actually bring a lot more of these files into compliance for safety's sake of permits that have been open since the early 2000s or mid 2000s. And
Right. That's good.
Nope.
Okay, well, I don't want to waste everybody's time here, so I'll make the motion that we where are we here? I'll make the motion that we move option 1, the preferred option. A second on that? Second. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
thank you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, now we're down to 7.7. Request for decision, design guidelines for affordable and multifamily housing, OCP amendments. Let me see. Here we go. Are you going to talk to this, Kim?
Actually, I think we're waiting for Anna to come join the meeting.
On our way.
Thank you.
There may be technical problems with him joining,
Don't
he's
be-
still in process.
Oh.
There we go.
Hello, Anna. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Wonderful. Are you going to speak to this 7.7?
Oh, yes. So the affordable housing.
Yes, thank you.
So this report on affordable housing design guidelines is in response to the previously made resolutions to use the BC housing definitions to update SLRD policy documents and to set minimum design standards for unit size, storage, and balcony space as part of the OCP. As such, it is proposed that affordable housing is clearly defined in the Area B, Area C, and Area D OCPs, and that the definitions are consistent between each other as well as with the RGS. More specifically, affordable housing is proposed to be defined as rental or ownership housing priced so that monthly payments are less than 30% or less of gross household income. For clarity, in the context of BC income taxes, this translates to roughly 41% of net income. Further to that, 2 new sections are proposed to be added to each OCP. An affordable housing section that speaks to general policies that support and encourage affordable housing, new developments, and multifamily design guidelines section that speaks to specific design considerations for creating livable units. So some of the policies proposed to encourage affordable housing include considering affordable housing a top priority for community amenity contributions, requiring that 15% of all units in new developments are affordable housing. Ensuring that that affordable housing is affordable in perpetuity through price controls, covenants, and title restrictions, and continuing to expedite the permitting process for affordable housing projects. In terms of design guidelines intended to create livability, in Area C and D, the guidelines speak to minimum unit and storage sizes. So for example, a 2-bedroom apartment is set to a minimum of 725 square feet, 4% of which is required to be in suite storage. The guidelines also speak to providing outdoor space in the form of patios, balconies, and decks of at least 60 square feet per unit. Other guidelines are also proposed to ensure proper siting, landscaping, and compatibility with surrounding character. In Area B, the specific guidelines with regard to unit and balcony sizes have been deleted. Instead, the multifamily design guidelines section defers directly to BC housing documents and places emphasis on passive design principle. And so that concludes a quick summary. Please let me know if I can answer any questions or provide further details or anything.
Any questions? Director Rainbow.
A comment, not questions. I'm really pleased to see those unit sizes as small as they are. I think when we talk about affordable housing, we have to recognize the construction costs and we have to scale down sort of expectations, if you like. If you want an affordable house, you can't have a 5,000 square foot house. We need to be serious about restricting the size of them. So I'm pleased to see that.
I appreciate staff accommodating the requests I put in for Area B. And even though I realize we're on the other side into the rain shadow, I'm still not sure in C and D about maximizing the benefits of sunshine exposure and requiring shadow analysis. But I'll totally support this the way that it's now. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess my concern is always what's affordable to one person may not be affordable to somebody else, and how we kind of arbitrarily or use the word affordable. I just, I have a problem with that. But I know that with the cost of construction, going up to hundreds of dollars a square foot, you have to build a very tiny home to be even, in the range of calling it affordable. Now, I was talking yesterday to a contractor who's building new homes on our local reserves, so federal government stuff, and they're building them for $241 a square foot, which is, in this day and age, amazing. And it'll be good quality construction. But when I talk to other contractors, they're talking, if we want to go to this step code 4 and step code 5 stuff, you're looking at $850 a square foot. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, who can afford that? Obviously, some people can afford it, but the average working person cannot afford that. So I think that's, I go back to that same thing. Somebody sitting somewhere decided we needed to go to step code 4 and 5. How long is it ever going to take to recover that and heat savings and all that kind of stuff? So anyways, that's just my rant about affordability. But anyways, you have a comment?
I think we've been spoiled in North America for years. We've had so much space, if you like. We've never really thought about the size of homes and how big homes should be. And, if you look in Europe, much smaller homes than you'll find, say, in Vancouver and some North American cities. I've just been doing some research online into tiny homes. It's just amazing what you can get into a relatively small house. You know, when you, there's one place that the home arrives basically as a flat pack. They take it off the truck and there it is, it's done. And every square inch in that place is used. So I think we need to have more emphasis on design and really push architects and builders to finding ways to maximize the use of space. And we had a home in Surrey, 2,500 square feet, which is plenty big enough for two people. It had 5 bedrooms, a dining room, an office, a family room, a living room, and a big kitchen in 2,500 square feet, because the guy that built it was trained as an architect, and there just wasn't any wasted space anyway, and double garage as well. You know? So
Yeah.
we need to be moving in this direction, saying to people, yeah, you can build a home here, but it can't be bigger than. It's got to fit these requirements. And just because you've got 10 acres, you don't have to have a 5,000 square foot house on them. So there you go.
Kim,
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to add, as Anna mentioned, you know, the province has defined affordable housing as 30% or less of gross household income. And that, you know, when you consider net income, that can be about 41% of what somebody makes going to housing, which, you know, we've had discussions at the staff level that it's actually quite a lot for a person to be expected to pay for housing based on those numbers. So I just thought I'd add that. Thanks.
yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, when you say that, in reality, you're getting close to the 50% mark of, you know, your income. And that, yeah, when you say 30%, then you say 41, but think about that, you're getting close to 50%, and that's not affordable. Anyways,
And you know, again, this is one of these things where the province sets a really big berth for affordability, because they're looking at, you know, housing across the entire province. So, you know, 30% goes a lot further if you're living in Prince Rupert than if you're living in, say, Whistler, Pemberton, Squamish. So, you know, they say that this is sort of, the definition says that it's the payments are less than 30%. So we would expect most developers are going to come in right at that number. There's nothing to say that the SLRD couldn't pare that down a bit to, rather than gross household income, to net household income. We have the ability to do that within our powers. And
Well,
then you
that's a
get closer to
discussion for
true
another day, I
affordability.
guess.
Yeah, Chair, I just gonna add that's a national, that 30% figure, after years of wrangling and trying to arrive at a commonly accepted definition of affordable. Not that I'm not weighing into whether or not it's affordable for situation A or situation B, but that's a Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation standard that's used to guide, you know, deliberations like this. Good, bad, or otherwise, it's sort of where we are nationally.
Okay. Are we ready to move this?
Move option 1, please.
Move option 1? Shall you second that?
Yep.
Okay. Moved and seconded, call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.
11B, you gotta do C and D.
Now we're off.
Oh,
to-
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
You got two- I think you got 2 motions each.
Well, as long as Dee's covered.
I took that as the whole
Shooting
The
match.
whole that.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you. 7.8, request for decision, proposed Gold Bridge transfer station fees and charges regulation bylaw number 1761-2022. Okay,
some.
oh, Angela. Anne Marie,
Good morning.
Good morning.
good morning.
Wave at them.
Yeah. Are you going to speak to this, one of you, kind ladies?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll pass it over to Marie-Lou LeBlanc.
Okay, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you through the chair. So staff is here today to present the Goldbridge bylaw for the transfer station. So staff came in last month presenting to EAD the proposed bylaw update. With the conversation we had with the director and also the information we received from EAD at that time, we are coming with a new Goldbridge transfer station fees and charges regulation bylaw. It is a repeal bylaw. So what staff did is basically change from 1 free garbage bag that was proposed to 2 free garbage bag a week for resident. And the other changes is really in how it is presented in the table. So from 2 free garbage bags, down to from 1 garbage bag to 2 garbage bags. That is the main changes that we're presenting to the EAD board today. Sorry, that wasn't very clear.
Sal.
Yeah, thank you to both Angela and Mary Lou for the communications we had. We worked through it, and I'm ready to move the first option there to present it to the board.
So this, okay, and I'll second that. But this is the proposed bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and adopted.
Can you do that all in one? Oh,
We can do that all at once?
At the board level, we can do it all
Okay,
at once. We have
okay.
to separate.
So
them
we're
out,
just
but-
sending this off to the board. So do we have to do the first, the second? Oh,
No, we can do it together because it's just it's a recommendation.
okay.
Yeah, I'll move them all.
And second it. Okay, call a question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
so if I bring a big bag of garbage here and give it to Sally, could dump it free for me? I don't have to pay at Squamish.
No,
And
residents only.
He'll have a fuel charge for you to haul it home.
when I see batteries car, we might have to specify little batteries in the future. For a mere $2. I have one that weighs about a ton.
Yeah. Okay, off to number 8, director's reports. 8.1, wildfire fighting equipment for Texas Creek, Director Birch Jones.
Thank you. And we approved some money to go to the Texas Creek Wildfire Group previously. So may I please rescind that motion or change the wording in such a way that we're now saying that we'll fund up to $1,000 with receipts to Greg Smith of the Texas Creek Wildfire Group? Is that clear, Kristen? Yeah.
If we can just rescind first,
Okay.
and then also and add the subject to entering into a financial contribution agreement. wording.
Okay.
Correct.
So I'd like to make a motion to rescind my previous resolution on this funding for Texas Creek. So moved.
Okay, I'll second that.
What was that? Just
To
refresh.
fund the, to
Yeah, how
fund
much money was it?
1,000, up to 1,000. It was 1,000.
Well, that's what we were rescinding.
Okay, so moved and seconded, call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Now,
And motion to fund the group up to $1,000. And this should be area B, by the way, although I would like to take it out of B. To be reimbursed with receipts to Mr. Greg Smith of the Texas Creek Wildfire Group for the items previously approved. Does that cover it? For the items outlined in their requests? Anything else I should say, Kristen?
No,
Subject to?
I have that subject to entering into a financial contribution agreement with the SLRD, funding of up to $1,000 be granted to Greg Smith from Electoral Area B.
That would
Select
be-
funds for wildfire fighting equipment for community volunteer efforts upon providing receipts.
I'd like to move that motion.
So is that Texas Creek Wildfire Committee, is that a society?
No.
How do we do that then?
Well, that was the issue, and because they're not a society, they couldn't receive the funds, and so through the chair, I am changing it to receipts to an individual member of the group. With.
It's not that I oppose the idea or anything
I
like
understand.
that. But I don't understand how we can reimburse an individual. I always thought that we weren't able to do that.
Ms. LaFrance has joined, perhaps she can,
yeah,
if you could repeat the question for her.
Suzanne, here's a question for you, but I'm sure,
Yeah, I'm just being picky here, Suzanne. Sorry, should I be?
No, it's fine. It's just, we did the same thing with, for example, the grizzly bear signs that went
Yeah.
up with Costa Cascades, so it's not unprecedented. But
So the question was, how do we reimburse an individual for costs which we want to support? But it's not a society, it's not an associate, not a formal association.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, we're reimbursing societies, it's for a service normally. So they apply for a service and we reimburse them. And for this instance, they're reimbursing actual costs. So it's not saying that they're going to produce a service for us. They're just, we're reimbursing costs for this person. We did it for the snow clearing too. So when people did snow clearing, we reimbursed their snow clearing costs based on their assistance. So if we're reimbursing based on backup, I have no qualms of that. They're not going to be using these funds for anything else than reimbursing for those expenses.
Well, that's interesting.
Gary,
yes,
I just want to make one comment. About a year and a half ago or a year ago, I can't remember. I made a director report talking to this, that we actually need some type of policy on it and on the whole aspect of us funding, getting some funding out. And I did make that comment at one of our last sessions, I think it was with the board meeting, regarding what are us as directors liable for. So I think a combination of all this stuff, we need to know. And I don't know, it's in the agenda planner for the staff to work on, but it hasn't been worked on. So, but anyway.
It is on the work plan. And the main issue really is supplying funding to 4 business enterprises. That is not allowed. So it's a little different with individuals.
And I actually started this request with the group had suggested one of the local businesses be able to receive the funding. That that was not acceptable, and I understand that. This is a long-standing group that has been funded by Director Macri in the past. This is just the first time in my 4-year term that they've asked for anything. And it's pretty reasonable. They're just replacing and upgrading their equipment.
I get that. I agree with Sal's suggestion here that we probably should develop some kind of a policy. You know, I've taken the opposite view when I had a group come and ask me for something, and I said, yeah, you become an association, you know, you become a registered society and then apply. Because I thought we needed that kind of protection. You know, I've got 2 characters in Furry Creek that do an awful lot for the community, but they don't belong to any association. And when they've asked for money, I've made them go through the association. And so that we've got a trail, we've got a paper trail. You know, the money goes to the association, it's all accountable, and then they pay the bills.
Yeah, I agree with that up until a certain point. I don't think that we want to make rules and regulations that make it hard for each of the area directors to fund these groups who are doing good stuff in their communities. Now, you know, I think it's our responsibility as directors to know the people in our area, know who's asking for the money, know that they're quality groups, individuals, whatever, and it's not going to be used to put new tires on their car, but they're doing something for the community. The other way, you know, I look at it is all this money that we administer, we're administering it on their behalf. It's their money. It's not our money. So if somebody comes forward with a legitimate ask, then I think it's our responsibility to make that decision, whether we deem it as, you know, important as they do. But I don't think we should put in a set of rules and regulations that the next group of people come and sit and look at these things and go, well, that's just handcuffed us. We can't give you money or you money because of all these now regulations that you have to adhere to. I think that's our job as elected directors, and we bring it here, we discuss it and make those decisions, right? But anyways, I mean, like this, in the 8 years now almost that I've been here, I haven't heard of anything that money's been given out to anybody that you'd say, I wonder about that. I think it's all been really well done.
Yeah, if I could speak, one of the issues is, you know, we give out this money, and if whoever's getting it doesn't have insurance or doesn't have anything, and they get hurt with the funds that we give them, are we liable? So there's all these issues that are associated with it. I'm okay as long as we go through that process of development of policy, then we got it. Whatever it is, if we can give it to individuals or individual groups that aren't an association or a society, that's fine. I'm okay with it. But I think we need to have that. And any future directors that come on board also need to have that confidence that this is what the policy is on them.
Well, the only thing I'll say is let's use the KISS principle and keep it very simple. I don't want to see some, you know, 24-page document on how somebody has to come and, you know, to receive money to hold a hot dog deal or something.
No, I want some protection for directors.
What's that?
I want some protection for us as directors.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I first started, there wasn't a rule that needed to be followed. You just asked for the money, and so I started writing those like a director's report with the date and everything and and I wrote that out. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to keep track of every grant that I got approval for, and they're all on my computer now. I've got them from 8 years ago. So if anybody ever came back and said, why did you give that money to that association? How come that won't happen? I'd be able to answer that question. And I did it for myself, and I did it based on experience I've had with on the other side of the coin, if you like, with societies receiving money. And I like to trust everybody, but sometimes things go astray, go awry, and I don't want to be in a position. I don't think any director should be in a position where it can come back to hurt them. So having a simple little policy, I don't think is onerous or.
No, I agree with that. I guess, like I say, I just, you want to keep it simple and make it so that people that want to come and ask for money, sports teams, whoever, they don't have to go through a long drawn out process. Like what I've done, and I've done this, well, Linda, our previous administrator, what I tell people is, so like I just had a request last night for funding for the Berken Fire Department. They're doing a fundraiser to get money for a new truck. So they wanted some money to help out with the expenses that's coming up. But anyways, so all I say to these folks that I do, send me an email requesting the funds and what the funds are for. And then I would forward that, which I still do. I forward that on to the CAO, to the financial officer, and to either Kristen, who I forgot this time, or Sarah, if it's an emergency thing, so that there's documentation there. And you'll see as we go forward here what I've done. So I've got a record of every penny that I've ever spent of Area C money and where it went, who asked for it. So,
Just that I've since received the receipts for this. We're talking about 2 large fire extinguishers, batteries for the headlamps, N95 smoke protection masks, a backpack tank, and some water. I'm extremely confident. I know these folks. They put out 2 spot fires last year at the beginning of the heat dome. I am using my discretion to say this is a very worthy cause. This is money well spent, and I just like to approve it in the simplest way possible and not put extra work on the backs of this volunteer group. So I'm happy about the way this is kind of.
So you've moved it. I'll second it. Did I already call the question on this one? No. Okay, call the question. Moved and seconded, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, now we go to 8.2.
Just one quick question
Yeah.
to follow that one. Looking at our fire services as a whole throughout the regional district, and considering we're going to hire whatever that person's called, regional fire person, where's this group fit in with that? What responsibility do we have? What liability do we have? Do we have any?
I think that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so none at present, and that's why part of the resolutions to fund certain pieces of equipment to other than societies or fire departments has included that agreement that indemnifies the SLRD. But it's interesting because the landscape is changing, and with the anticipated new legislation coming out of the Office of the Fire Commissioner, that may change our relationship with some types of these groups. We don't know yet, but that's a big part of what the regional fire chief is going to be
Yeah,
digging
so
into as well.
in the meetings that I've been involved with the new playbook, as we'll say, updated version, I think we have got it across to the Office of the Fire Commissioner. Back to that, they came out with this grandiose scheme to make everything extremely, I'm not going to say difficult, but somewhat difficult. So for small organizations, The biggest thing is going to be accreditation. So your training schedules, all your training of individuals, all that's practice times, all that sort of stuff. And then there's the playbook is actually coming forward. They're going to clean it up and make it simpler to understand. We were really sort of adamant about that because if you're talking about Whistler Fire, Squamish Fire, Vancouver Fire, they've got a huge staff. They have somebody there that does all their training, writes everything down, does all that. So they're expecting, or they were, that the Upper Meadows Fire Department, your little group over there, your group, you're kind of in the middle there. You're not a little unorganized sort of department. So they're working through all that training stuff.
Yeah.
And keeping a record of it now. But some of these other places, like we were saying to the fire commissioner people, you have to understand that these are strictly volunteers who work, like say farmers here, they're busy people. So they put the time out to go to practice and do all this stuff, but they don't have, say the time to say designate one person to do all this work of bookkeeping, right? So what I said to them was, I want to see, if you want all this stuff, then put some money forward, like the province. Put some money forward so that these people can hire somebody to do it, or you provide somebody to come and do it, right? So at first they were just, no, that ain't gonna happen. But now they've said, the province has said that they will put money forward. They didn't say how much, and they didn't say when, but we've still got more meetings going forward. So we'll keep pushing that. A couple of the CAOs from the regional districts up in the interior, they were also really adamant about there has to be more funding if you want all this stuff to happen. So, and with us, like one of the regional districts in the Kootenays, when the playbook first came out, and I was still the fire chief at the time, and I told the fire chief coming in, I said, this is going to really impact your budget, and be aware of that. And so in the Kootenays there, they ended up hiring 5 new staff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, to cover all this work, right? So anyways, it's a work in progress is what it is. But I think that having us hiring a regional fire chief is going to be a huge benefit to everybody, because that person, if the chief of the Birkin Fire Department, who is a young, keen guy, and he's well-trained because I had him for about 8 years down below here. But he can now get assistance from that individual. That's going to be huge. Same with your folks and your folks, right? Your folks. No, I look forward to that person being hired.
Yeah, we would not have been able to adapt to these changes without that expertise.
No, because you don't have the manpower. And you know what? Having one person is wonderful. Maybe having 2 or 3 would be that much more wonderful, right?
Gonna get that recorded.
Record that because,
I just want to be clear, in no way am I sort of disapproving supporting this group of people. I think my history in Area D has been very much as a supporter of volunteer fire services. I think go back to the Upper Squamish Valley, when I first started, they had nothing up there, no organization whatsoever. And with the help of the Britannia department, who went out and gave them some suggestions, they've now got enough equipment and they've got enough training that when that wildfire started last year, they were on the job and before BC Wildfire got there and really helped. But that's all been channeled through the local association, so that they've got insurance through that association. I mean, That's the sort of thing I worry about. When I see the playbook, yeah, I agree with you, but it needs to be simplified. But sort of the underlying thing there is to, I think anyway, is to make sure that people that are involved in this as a volunteer or whatever, that they get some training, that the equipment is reasonable for what they want to do, and that there is some kind of insurance for them, like a guy that's a volunteer firefighter, he's working at something else. If he gets hurt and he can't do his job anymore, well, you know, that's quite an impact. You know, where would he go with that? Would he come to us, and would he be suing us for support? And again, not that I think he shouldn't have the support, but I just want to make sure that those kinds of things are in place. And with our new regional fire chief, presumably that's
Yeah, that will really
considerations.
help. So, I mean, Sarah has been amazing in her time, and just breaks my heart that that's not happening. But anyways, but the number one priority is the safety of your people, right? And that's no matter what business you're in, but in firefighting emergency service, that's the absolute number one priority, the safety of your people. So how do you give them that? With the best training possible and the best equipment possible. So that's what we're doing.
Just, you know, when I first got on as the president of the Gun Lake Fire back around 2010 or 2011, whatever it was, that was the first thing, one of the first things I did was got them work safe. The next was getting general liability insurance to cover that, because exactly for that reason.
Yeah.
You're going, everybody's a volunteer, and if they get hurt and they don't have work safe, they're done. If they get really seriously hurt, they're done. They got nowhere they can go. So getting that work safe, and the BRBCA has work safe. Both of our fire departments have work safe. And it's critical that things are done correctly for that reason. Because if they get hurt, there's nowhere they can go.
Well, and like you say, that this new individual that we will get will just be wonderful.
So what do we do with a group that's not an organized group? How do we protect them, protect us? What do we do?
Well, I would say that we wait until we hire our new fire chief, and that will be one of his top priorities, is to make sure that everybody that's doing this type of work is covered by WorkSafe. All the departments are, right?
Yeah, and again, we've just funded a group.
Yeah.
And I trust that they're a good, honest, hardworking group. And
I guess the thing you have to say is, all these people go and take the S100 course, get training from forestry, because they're not doing structural firefighting. They're doing forestry firefighting, which is as dangerous as anything is. But I think it's,
Through you, Chair, if I could, it's an evolving situation. And we know that, or we believe that the province's take on the responsibilities of local government for the right insurance coverage to be in place and where those liabilities lie is evolving. So we know that. At present, for groups like that, no, we do not, by virtue of funding the purchase of that equipment, believe we incur liability today. But that's an evolving environment. And all I can say is we're going to have to respond to the legislation. This individual is going to have to come on board, and we're going to have to engage the board moving forward as we understand what new sort of landscape the province is going to put in place. And we've only, Sarah's well aware of this, but we've only recently begun to get a little more information about what that might look like. But beyond that, there's nothing that we can add at the moment.
Will there be a presentation at the June meeting?
at the
June,
board meeting?
board meeting?
No, this is down the road.
No,
This
this-
is
yeah.
not- Yeah, no, this is not.
This, and the implementation, once this working group and everybody gets this thing finalized, there's a 2-year phase-in period. So it's not gonna be like the date is today and it happens tomorrow. It'll be phased in over a 2-year period. That's what they're talking about right now. But I don't believe, well, we've got 2 meetings planned, so that takes care of June and July. And there may be another 1 or 2. So this won't be till maybe October, November, that we feel comfortable of what we're gonna say goes to the government to get finalized. So I think it's a ways off yet.
Okay, given all that, do we know if this group has WorkSafe BC? Do they have WorkSafe? Do we know that? Should it be a question that we should ask Vivian to ask them now? I mean, should we? I know we don't like rules and regulations, but on the other hand, I don't want to see a guy in serious problem because of something that we could have felt correct.
You would know, Chair, far better than I would, but my understanding is that's a situation across the province right now.
Yeah.
That communities are responding in ways that they feel appropriate to be prepared to respond to these type of emergencies. But I don't think the system's caught up in that regard. We're not. We're certainly not in that place. Is where we are.
Yeah, no,
That's my
I think,
sense.
like I said, it's a work in progress. And, it's back to the training. These people have all had S100. I'm sure some of them have had more than that. So as far as the safety aspect of it goes, they're probably as safe as they're going to be at this point in time doing their job. And back to that, the more equipment you give them, the better off they are, because they're not out there with a bucket of water or a garden hose. So anyways,
Lunch is here.
lunch is here. Okay, shall we whip through this?
What should
Do we have to vote on it?
Because we don't have,
We already did. We did. It is warm.
oh, okay, let's take come back at 5 to 1,
That sounds,
half hour.
that'll do.
Is that right?
I approve of that.
You'll approve of that? Okay, very good. So we'll be back here in a half an hour. Okay, let's resume this meeting at 8:02. And that would be a water trailer for Birkenhead Lake Estates. So this is a recommendation going to the board to put a financial contribution agreement with the SLD funding of $11,898.68 to be granted to the Birkenhead Lakes Estates community for areas the amenity funds are from for the purchase of water trailer, which I had done the other 4. I just happened to get this community. Yeah, not very good, eh? Amazing. But anyways, they picked theirs up and they're extremely excited, so.
So
So one of their residents up there is actually a captain in Worcester Fire. So he's now gonna set up a training program with the trailer and go over the whole, and set it up the way they want it. He's already figured out he's gonna put 2 pre-connects on it, all really good stuff. So hopefully we can get all the rest of them the same way and then they're good. But anyways, I would like to move this, second it, and so moved and seconded, call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.
what's this thing look like?
Actually, I'll show you.
I received a whole package from the supplier. I could forward it on to you if you like.
Yeah, maybe I should look at one for,
I don't know, I don't want you to scoop that one away when I'm looking at it for Area B.
Careful, Marshall Valley needs one too.
All right.
Hard to come back?
Is that-
Are they hard to get?
Oh, Dave at, here, I'll just call time for a second. Here, just. And then scroll along, there's a whole bunch there.
And what's the total cost of one of these?
Pardon me?
What's the total cost?
11,898. So actually it's 11,698, but I added $200 on to cover the cost of trailer insurance.
Can you send that to me? Thank you.
Okay, very good. Correspondence for action, request for funding, Lillooet and District Chamber of Commerce membership.
So
Vivian.
thank you, Chair Mac. And looking at the various types of membership, I'd like to support this request. The chamber in Lillooet is reinvigorated. I'm happy they've received some COVID funding money and they really are kind of revitalized and active. It's very good to see. None of the categories for membership really fit with the SLRD. So I just want to make a motion that to contribute $2,000 from Area B select funds to the Lillooet Chamber of Commerce. And just for the Area B director to be copied on their information. I don't need a membership. I don't think it's appropriate. We're not small business. We're not corporate business. We're not nonprofit business. So I just thought to make that contribution and ask to be included on their mailing list is what I'd like to do with this request. So.
Okay.
I'll second
Okay,
it.
are you okay with that,
Moved and
Chris?
seconded. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Just a thought too. So what I was told is these organizations that we are involved in as area directors, say like the Pembroke Wildlife Association,
Yep.
the library, things that we're appointed to by our board to represent Health Foundation.
Right.
So when I've gone to these meetings and they said, oh, you should be a voting member or whatever. No, I don't want to be a member because if I'm a member and now I'm
Oh, yeah, that's.
putting Area C funds towards this, that's kind of a conflict of interest, I think. So if you're not a member, you're just there as a person of interest, shall we say, then you're not.
Okay,
It doesn't stop you from doing that.
nice.
Not that it does, but this just makes it, I think, a lot
Beautiful.
cleaner, so.
Thank you.
So anyways, that's moved, seconded, and it's all good.
Yeah, done.
Now we go to 9.2, and this is request for funding Blackwater Creek Elementary School Parent Advisory Committee year-end field trip. So I would like to move this $1,000 to their group, the PAC group, for their year-end field trip to Meadow Park Sports Center. They have to rent a bus and a driver and all that stuff. So anyways, I'll move that. I'll second it. So moved to second, to call a question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Decision on late business. So late business, me again. I got a call last night from Birkin Fire. Well, I actually got an email requesting $1,500 to go towards helping pay the expenses. They're having a fundraiser. They want to raise enough money to buy a newer bus, related truck so that they can hopefully get better fire insurance. They're up to 20 firefighters now and all that stuff, so they're really doing a good job. So anyways, I will move that, and Sal's gonna second it. And I'll call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Director's notice of motion, I don't believe we have any. And Tony, this is yours.
Chairman. Did we agree to deal with the late business, by the way? I missed that.
Yeah,
Oh,
but we did get your adjournment.
we did.
It's his, being the senior fellow in the building, he gets to do the adjournment. Yeah.
Really good.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody.
Well done.